since the seasons. Reason to be faithful. 78 disgraceful. 04 distasteful. 85 testify we need to be thankful. 91 Marshall hit Montana with that facial. 93 lost, still a bit as dark spatial. 95 five-time winners, we generational. 05 team, throw away our conversational. 2014, we still here with no place to go. Loyalty defines royalty, that's inspirational. Superdome lights out, that's still emotional. Kneel down for lies, we're wide motivational. War on the nations, not an empire to racial togetherness. We bring the faces of you, and when the game is done, it's still nothing but you. We a niner, regardless the click of the crew. Win or lose, stay grateful, cause we still faithful. Keep the faith, stand strong through the triumph of pain. Loyalty for my team still the same. Pumping red and gold blood in our veins, and that'll never change. That's why we still faithful. Yeah, we still faithful. You know we still faithful. Yeah, we still faithful. You know we still faithful. I'ma put it all on the table. We forever faithful. Yeah, we was on our road to our third Super Bowl in a row on the double. When Roger Craig fumbled, and it was hard to take the heat, watching Bill tell Joe to take a seat. In them 87 playoffs after the Vikings pulled off the upset, our loyalty was never suspect, we still faithful. We can't appreciate the glory without the pain and hardship to help create the story. Truth be told, I was disgusted, like an uppercut to the stomach. After Kyle Williams muffed it, almost 10 years, still tough to discuss it. Hella throws in the world when Frank should have tucked it. Sat through our rivals eating turkey on the 50-yard line. Head high, you ain't still in our shine. We been through some hard times. Everything that glitters ain't gold. 2016, lost 13 in a row. Never wavered our allegiance. Couldn't stop believing in my heart skip when Steve got rocked by Aeneas. Not a gang since a fetus. Definition of die hard. We love Bill Walsh. We miss Dwight Clark. Can't nobody break us down. We was faithful then, still faithful now. Said we was faithful then, still faithful now. Del G, Dave Canal, bro. We gotta keep the faith. Stand strong through the triumph of pain. Loyalty for my team still the same. Pumping red and gold blood in our veins, and that'll never change. That's why we still faithful. Yeah, we still faithful. You know we still faithful. Yeah, we still faithful. You know we still faithful. I'ma put it all on the table. We forever faithful. Yeah, we still faithful. Stayed repping through the toughest of times. And now we back on top. We deserve it. We still faithful.
All right, what's going on, 49er faithful? You are tuned in to Keeping the Faith, the first official off-season edition of the show. I'm JD, and feels a little weird to say that. It's the off-season if you're a 49ers fan. Look, I don't know how I'm doing tonight, guys. And I'm sure a lot of you probably feel the same way. So my plan for tonight, I want to go live and I want to talk about kind of how we're feeling at the conclusion of this 2025 season. I want to talk about the positives, the negatives, the questions that we have now that the season is over and we can look ahead to the off season and the 2026 season and all that. Look, it still stings. It doesn't feel good. And I know a lot of you guys probably feel the same way. So I want to treat this like a little therapy session. Let's just talk this thing out. Let's just talk this thing through tonight. I will be taking calls, in a little while. I will be taking calls. I'll drop the StreamYard link in the live chat to give you guys a chance to call in and voice your thoughts, voice your feelings, voice your opinions. I want to get a kind of a feeling of how the 49ers are dealing with this right now, because some fans are looking at the positives. Some fans are looking at the good things that the Niners did in this 2025 season. Others are, focused on the negative stuff, focused on the injuries, focused on the outlook moving ahead and some of the negatives there. So I just want to talk it all through. I don't know if we're going to come to some sort of like conclusion or consensus on how we should feel, but I just want to talk it out because it's been a roller coaster of a season, ups and downs every single week. I mean, just when you think things are going to, get going in a good, smooth direction for the Niners, another injury happens or a loss happens. A lot of ups and downs this year. It was a really, really like just topsy-turvy season, even though, yes, they did win 12 games and they made the playoffs and they won a playoff game. I mean, there's a lot to be appreciative of, a lot to have enjoyed in this 2025 season, but it was just, man, it was up and down and twists and turns, and it was not smooth sailing really at any point in the year. And I just want to talk it out with you guys because I know a lot of faithful are feeling the same way. But if you're here and you're watching the show live and you're in our live chat, make sure you drop your ones so I know who's here so I can say what's up to everybody. That's what I always like to do at the top of the program. Also, if you're not subscribed, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you like, the stream. Make sure you share it out. All that good stuff helps the channel big time. We are getting close to monetization, so I would appreciate any support I can get from you guys in terms of sharing the stream out, hitting the like button, helping kind of push this thing. So let me say what's up to our chatters that are in the live chat. I see a few of you guys. Zane says, not a faithful, but first. Hey, at least you're watching. Big Brick 84 drops his one. Shout out Big Brick. He's always in here. Niner Gang Podcast. He's here in the chat. What up, Niner Gang? Let's see who else we got. Half Dead. I've been seeing him quite a bit in the streams and in the comment sections of the videos lately. Shout out Half Dead. Miguel Fuentes in the live chat. What up, Miguel? Thank you for tuning in, my guy. Shout out Danny Golding. He is in the live chat as well. Make sure I didn't miss anybody. Miguel followed up with his ones. Appreciate you guys for tuning in, man. I will be dropping the StreamYard link a little bit later, and I definitely want to hear from as many of you guys as I can. That's why we're doing this. This is a 49er fan therapy session tonight. Let's talk about it. Like, how are we feeling, guys? How should we be feeling after seeing the Niners go up to Seattle and just get absolutely shellacked 41-6 in the divisional round playoffs? I mean, and losing to Seattle 2 times in 3 weeks, like in the manner that they did, like, yeah, they won in Philly, and it was a great game, and there were some great things that happened in that game, but it almost feels like it didn't even happen to me, to be honest with you. Losing to Seattle twice in 3 weeks, being, dominated in all 3 phases in both of those games was hard to swallow, hard to watch. And it leaves a lot of questions and a lot of things to be desired as we exit this 2025 season, put a bow on it, wrap it up, and move ahead into the off season towards free agency, towards the draft. And, the 2026 season will be here before you know it. But let's talk about it, guys. Should we view this season as a success? Like, do Niner fans themselves view this season as a success? This team won 12 games. They made the playoffs. They won a playoff game. They knocked out the defending Super Bowl champs on the road in one of the most memorable road playoff games in 49er history. There was tons of injuries, tons of adversity plagued this team throughout the course of the year. You saw a lot of young guys get tons of experience, right? You saw a coaching staff performing miracles on a weekly basis. So do Niner fans view this season as a success, considering everything that happened and everything that this team had to deal with? Or do you feel like they might have left a little on the table? Maybe you're disappointed. Maybe you're let down. Maybe, because of the injuries, you feel like the team did not capitalize on what was considered a soft schedule, right? Like, what could have been? Could this season have been that much greater had the team been moderately healthy? And they weren't even close to that. I mean, if this team had remained moderately healthy throughout the course of the year, what could this team have achieved? Would they still be in the playoffs right now? Those are the things that I've been thinking about. Is this season a success? I don't know how I feel about that. And that's why I'm doing this, guys. This is a therapy session. We are talking this out tonight because there's a lot of mixed emotions, guys. At least for me, a ton of mixed emotions. So here's how I want to do it. I'm going to take you guys through my positives, my negatives, that I took away from this 2025 season, and then I'm gonna talk about the questions that have arisen and presented themselves at the conclusion of this year. And I don't know if I'm going to come to a decision whether or not this year was a success, because I just don't know. I don't know. But what I'm going to do is talk about the positives, the negatives, and the question marks that we have, or at least that I have, that I took away from this season. And then I'll turn it over to you guys. And I'll let you guys call in, give your thoughts, express your emotions, express your frustration, whatever the case may be. That's what tonight's all about. It is a 49er fan therapy session through and through, because I know I need it. And so if I need it, I'm sure a lot of you guys do too. So let me start with the positives that I have, that I've taken away from this 2025 season. Before the year started, if you watched any of the beat writers, anybody that has a show on YouTube that is a beat writer or is around the team on a daily basis, you heard a common theme that it was all about 2026. This year was all about shaping things up for 2026. I know it's been a while since we were in, training camp and last offseason and whatnot, and the build up to the start of this season last September. But I remember a lot of content being put out there saying that this year was all about 2026, not spending a ton of money in free agency, investing heavily through the draft the last 2 years, taking on a ton of dead cap, hits this offseason. That way the future looks better. Those are all things that we heard about and that was discussed ad nauseum throughout the offseason. It was all about 2026 prior to this season, despite having, your main core group of players returning, despite having, your perceived franchise quarterback who had signed a brand new, record contract at the time in Brock Purdy, despite bringing back Robert Saleh as defensive coordinator, upgrading your special teams with Brant Boyer. Everything was about 2026. At least that's what the experts and the talking heads and the beat writers were trying to tell you heading into this season, even though there was a soft schedule and a very clear path for this team to compete in 2025. But everything we heard was that it was all about 2026. I know I remember that. So in a year that the team won 12 games, made the playoffs, won a road playoff game in thrilling fashion, I take that as a huge positive for this 2025 season, when we were all led to believe that 2025 was really all about 2026, setting the team up for the future, for next year and beyond. And so that's a big time positive for me. I was kind of setting my expectations low as we approached this season. And to see this team go out and do what they did, even though I had a feeling that's what they were going to do, because I follow this team. I've pride myself on knowing a little bit about football, and and looking at the schedule and just kind of looking at things from 1,000 feet up. I felt like this team was going to win 11, 12 games just because of who they had in the building and the schedule in front of them. As things turns out, that's what they did. They came out and they won 12 games. And, it came down to week 18 to decide the number one seed in the NFC and the NFC West champ, right? Now, yes, the Niners lost that game. It sucked. It hurt. But this team, with all of its warts, all of its injuries, and all the reasons in the world to not be a competitor in this 2025 season, was in it, right? And they made the postseason after a very, very disappointing 2024. So that's a big positive for me, out of this 2025 year. Absolutely. And then, I mean, it was, to me, this 2025 season was obviously, clear and away, without a doubt, zero debate, the best coaching season of Kyle Shanahan's career, at least with the San Francisco 49ers. The work that he did with all of the injuries, given the fact that you had two starting quarterbacks this year, Mac Jones for half the season, Brock Purdy for half of the season, all of the injuries across the board, everything that this team had to deal with on a weekly basis, the masterful job that Kyle Shanahan did navigating all of that, optimizing what he had, what he was given. Really, Kyle Shanahan made chicken soup out of chicken shit. He really did. And to me, it is far and away the best coaching job of Kyle Shanahan's career, and it should culminate with him winning Coach of the Year. I believe that to my core. I am pro Kyle Shanahan. There is a segment of the fan base that does not like Kyle Shanahan and wishes he would get fired. I would say I am pro Kyle Shanahan, but I'm not like a homer. I'm not blind. I'm not, I'm not blind to things. If Kyle Shanahan was messing up, I would be the first to tell you, right? I would be open to it, talking about it, admitting it. I have no problem saying when I'm wrong or criticizing the players or the team or the organization. None of that. But I think Kyle Shanahan did a hell of a job this year. I really do. And, I think he should be commended for it, considering everything that this team had to deal with. That to me, that's a huge positive, just to see the growth of Kyle Shanahan and what he was able to do this season, all things considered. You move along, and there were several young players on this team who got extensive playoff time, played, big time critical roles for this team, started tons of games, got a ton of experience, got postseason experience. And these are players that are going to play huge roles for this team moving forward. Guys like Upton Stout, the rookie third-round nickel corner. Guys like Alfred Collins, the second-round D tackle. Marquise Siegel played some meaningful games and started some meaningful games for this team this year. CJ West, defensive tackle out of Indiana, had some moments this year for sure. Alfred Collins and CJ West figure to probably be your starting interior defensive tackles next year. Michael Williams, a lot of people kind of have forgotten about Michael because he got hurt so early on in the year, but he was really starting to play some good football before he got injured. And the defensive line was really wreaking havoc the first few weeks of the season when they had Michael Williams and they had Nick Bosa together. Michael Williams, the first round pick, he was making his mark before injury. Tatum Bethune had some good games. Yes, he had some shaky moments and missed some tackles and had some bad games as well. But Tatum Bethune played a ton of meaningful snaps for this team. Malik Mustafa at safety, coming off of the torn ACL, played 12 games after he missed the first chunk of the season, being placed on the PUP list. He stayed healthy. All those young players getting all of the snaps that they did, it's going to pay off huge, big time dividends for this team moving forward, whether they maintain their starting roles or they're on the bench. At the very least, you have very solid depth moving forward. You have guys that have experience, postseason experience moving forward. I liked what I saw from a lot of these young guys this year, and it really makes me feel good going into next season when, they're going to add more talent in free agency. They're going to add more talent in the draft. And last year, it didn't feel like this team was very deep. Heading into this season, it didn't feel like this team was all that deep. But now, all of a sudden, because this team's going to improve. They're going to improve this roster in the offseason. All of a sudden, this team is looking a lot deeper at a multitude of positions moving into 2026, assuming, they add to the roster appropriately. I was very pleased with what I saw from the young guys. And I will also make sure I read a lot of your guys' comments, man. I'm just trying to get through a lot of my talking points here so I can open up the call-in line and get your guys' thoughts as well. So bear with me. I hope you guys are, enjoying the show. Next on my list for positives from the 2025 season, it has to be the remarkable year that Christian McCaffrey had. And I know he averaged below 4 yards a carry. And I know that he was not the home run threat that we've seen in years past coming off of the bilateral Achilles tendonitis that he was dealing with a year ago. But at age 29, with all of the wear and tear on his tires and every reason in the world to think his best football was behind him, Christian McCaffrey went out and he played in every single game this year, rushed for 1,200 yards, had over 100 receptions, and nearly 1,000 receiving yards. And not to mention 10 rushing touchdowns and I think he had 7 receiving touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. Christian McCaffrey at the age of 29 had 450 touches this year. Coming off of the year he had last year, who would have thought McCaffrey would have stayed healthy this entire season? He is a warrior. He is, and I've said this before, I'm pretty sure I've said it on here on YouTube before. Christian McCaffrey is the best 49ers running back of all time. And when I say best, I'm not saying greatest. Greatest 49ers running back of all time is Frank Gore. He's the one that holds the franchise records. He's the one who had the longevity. He's the one who played in a ton of playoff games and, and all that stuff. I reserve the term greatest for number 21. But best in terms of all-around skill, all-around ability, and what he has meant to the team while he has been here, Christian McCaffrey is the best 49ers running back of all time. And there's a difference, like I said, between best and greatest. But McCaffrey he's something else, man. And, I know he had 450 touches this year, so the math will tell you that 2026 may be a down year for Christian McCaffrey, but after this season, can you really doubt him? Can we really, put that on CMC? Like, I can't doubt anything the man does. If you told me the next year he played all 17 games again and rushed for 1,300 yards, I wouldn't be shocked because it's Christian McCaffrey. And that's the kind of player that he is. That's the kind of work that he puts in. And he's just that kind of player. So shout out to Christian McCaffrey for a absolutely legendary season. I mean, he should win Offensive Player of the Year in the NFL. He probably will. What he did, I mean, he carried this team. He really did, at least offensively. Next on my list for positives that I take out of the 2025 season, they got rid of Jake Moody. I know that happened all the way back in week 1 after the week 1 game up in Seattle, which I attended and saw Jake Moody miss kicks in Seattle. But they got rid of Jake Moody. They cut the dead weight. And not only did they cut the dead weight, they brought in Eddie Pinheiro, who has turned into a fan favorite and a very reliable kicker for this team with a big leg. So that's a positive for me. You cut Jake Moody, you find his long-term replacement, and hopefully they re-sign him this offseason, and Eddie Pinheiro remains a 49er moving forward. But cutting Jake Moody definitely deserves to be recognized as a positive, in my humble opinion. Another positive from this 2025 year, and I think this is the end of my list for positives, and then we'll get into the negative stuff. They ate a record number of dead cap space in this past off season. They swallowed a ton of dead cap. They moved on from a lot of contracts that they did not like. They made some prude moves that will help this team in the future in terms of cap space, including voiding all of Brandon Ayuk's future guarantees. And, by all accounts, Brandon Ayuk will be playing for another football team in 2026. So getting out from underneath all of that dead cap, moving on from Brandon Ayuk after that disaster is a net positive for me. I know that they might not have been able to spend in the way that maybe fans are accustomed to in recent years because of the dead cap. But in the long run, everything that they did in terms of saving money and making smart, prudent financial decisions is going to pay off big time for this team moving forward. And they still were able to contend, won 12 games and made the playoffs, all while having a record number of dead cap. So to me, that is a huge positive for this team, even though it was a negative in their bank account. So those are my positives for the year. Let me see what you guys are saying before I move on to the negative stuff. I see a few more people trickling in. I see Sin in the chat. What's up, Sin? Thank you for tuning in. Glad you could make it. For the rest of you who just got here, I will be dropping my live or my StreamYard link in a little bit to give your guys thoughts or to get your guys' thoughts this season. My guy Half Dead says JD is cooking. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Just going through my positives, negatives, and questions that have emerged from this 2025 season. I just gave you guys my positives. And don't get me wrong, there are a lot of negatives. There are a lot of questions. But I wanted to start with the positives because there definitely were. And I know coming off of a huge loss in Seattle, the way that we did, 41-6, losing to your hated rival, my most hated football team in existence. And now they're going to be hosting the NFC Championship game against another NFC West rival in the Los Angeles Rams. I know all that stuff does not feel good. But there were some positives to take out of this season, no matter how negatively you feel right now. So I wanted to make sure I led with that. Absolutely. My negatives, let's get into the negatives for 2025 because I got quite a few here. I think I have more negatives here than positives, if I'm being honest with you. You have to lead off the negative list with the injuries. I mean, every single week it felt like you were losing a future Hall of Famer. Every single week you were losing a cornerstone player of this team. Every single week it was a revolving door at various positions. It was brutal. We have seen injured seasons in years past, but I don't know if we've seen one quite like this. The only one I can kind of relate to this season in terms of injuries was probably 2020. 2020 was just a weird year in general, but the injuries that year were catastrophic, just like this season. But the injuries this year, Nick Bosa on the defensive line, Mykel Williams on the defensive line, both those guys tore ACLs. Fred Warner broke his ankle. George Kittle, torn Achilles. I mean, those are the big ones. Those are the big time injuries from this year. And of course, there were a million smaller ones throughout the course of the year that shaped the depth chart every single week. But those are the big ones that, Nick Bosa, Mykel Williams, Fred Warner, George Kittle. Those are all things that are going to impact this team going into 2026. So now, by all accounts, Nick Bosa will be back and should be ready to go early in the year. Same thing with Mykel Williams. Fred Warner should be ready to go, I would imagine for the offseason program. He was almost ready to play, had the Niners advance to the NFC Championship game, but now he can slow down, rehab properly, and really ramp himself up the right way so that he's fully ready to go for the 2026 season. And he did allude to that in his exit interview down at 49-49 today. And then, of course, George Kittle just recently in that wild card game against the Eagles, tearing his right Achilles. At first it sounded bad. I mean, you think Achilles, you think 12 months, you think, oh, George is probably going to miss the entire 2026 season. But in his exit interview today down at Niner headquarters, he said where he tore it, how he tore it, it's not the worst case scenario. And he expects to be back earlier than, most would think. I'm not putting anything past George Kittle. I hope that George Kittle is back as soon as possible without jeopardizing, the rest of his career, of course, because George Kittle is my favorite player on this roster, and his importance to this team cannot be understated. But these injuries, they not only impacted this year, they're going to impact the team next year. And the injuries this year were the overarching theme of the 2025 season. They hurt this team in a big, big way. Speaking of injuries, and this is one I didn't mention with the list of cornerstone players a moment ago, but Brock Purdy missed half of the season with turf toe. Now, it's another year of Brock Purdy being impacted by some sort of injury. I believe 2023 is the only time that we really didn't deal with anything injury-wise from Brock Purdy, but every other season of his 49ers career has been marred by injury at some point in some form or fashion. The way that Purdy played down the stretch, the way Purdy played in that NFC wildcard game in Philadelphia, has a lot of people with some recency bias and some very, good feelings about Brock Purdy right now because of what we saw just recently. Purdy played some of the best football of his career in recent weeks. Now, that's all well and good. And he's got his contract, so he's locked in. But it was another year where we saw Brock Purdy go down with an injury. And I'm not trying to rain on anyone's parade. I'm not saying that Brock Purdy is not the 49ers franchise quarterback because that contract tells you otherwise. He absolutely is. And he will be the team's, number one quarterback next year. But it's another year of an injury to your franchise quarterback. And so I'm not trying to be the negative Debbie Downer, but I'm just being realistic here, and I'm talking this thing through. Again, this is a 49ers therapy session, so bear with me. And I hope I'm giving you guys all these points and ideas and talking points so that when I drop the StreamYard link and you guys can call in, maybe you want to talk about one of my points, my positives, my negatives, and whatnot. But for me, having Brock Purdy miss more significant time due to an injury, it's not a good look. And it raises a lot of questions, at least for me. They gave him his money. He is locked in. He's not going anywhere right now. But you're hearing a lot of people after the performances that he put on down the stretch saying without debate, like just not even second guessing, not even stopping to think, oh yeah, Brock Purdy's the franchise quarterback without a doubt. No question. If you think otherwise, you're dumb. There's a lot of that going on right now that I've seen from other content creators, media members, and whatnot. But just think about what I'm saying. Another year with a Brock Purdy injury. I at the very least have some apprehensions and some questions and some just uneasiness with number 13 as we head into 2026. I mean, how many seasons in a row are we going to deal with Brock Purdy getting hurt? You have to know how to stay healthy if you're the franchise quarterback. And I know injuries are a part of football, and I get all that. But it's another year of injuries with Brock. And I had the same sort of reservations before they signed him to that mega contract. You're talking about a player who is, yes, he's played well, but he's also gotten hurt a lot. And so, yes, we may feel good about Brock right now based on the things that we've seen down the stretch of the season, but I just want everyone to take a step back and think about this season as a whole and kind of match it up with what we've seen previously. More injuries for Brock. Not good. Not good. Next on my negatives, my list of negatives from the 2025 season. Keep in mind, I already went through my positives, so if you missed that, make sure you rewind the stream. Next on my list of negatives, Ricky Pearsall. I was bullish on Ricky Pearsall coming into this year. He is a joy to watch for someone like me who loves wide receiver play, who loves footwork, route running, that sort of thing. I love the art of the wide receiver position. I was very bullish, very hyped, very excited to see Ricky Pearsall this season because of what we dealt with last year. He had injuries in the offseason. He got shot in the offseason. He came back and still dealt with injuries, but he also, put up some good tape at the end of his rookie season. And so coming into this year, I was really expecting a breakout from Ricky Pearsall, but we're dealing with a lot of the same stuff we dealt with last year, minus the gunshot. The dude can't stay healthy. He can't. And down the stretch of the season, some things started to pop up, about questions about his toughness. Is he one of the guys that will play through injury when he is physically able, or is he a front runner? Does he have to be fully healthy? Is he willing to put everything on the line for his teammates to win games? Those questions presented themselves down the stretch of this season. Let's not pretend that they didn't. You've heard rumblings from inside the building that they're thinking, hey, Ricky's been practicing this week, and then you get to game day and Ricky's inactive again. There's rumblings in the building that there are some people who are not happy with Ricky Pearsall. And as skilled as you are, as good as you are on the football field, what does it matter if you're not out there playing? He could be the next Jerry Rice. You could see it every day on the practice field. He could look like Jesus in cleats. But if he does not play on Sunday, how good are you really? And as much as I am a Ricky Pearsall fan, I have questions. I have reservations. I have concerns that, I don't know if he's ever going to be able to withstand an NFL season. I don't know if he has an NFL body. I don't know. Some guys are just not built for it. And it's a shame because he's really fun to watch. He plays it in a very fun style that I enjoy watching. And his injury, issues are a big negative from this 2025 season for me. Next on my list of negatives, and we stay in the wide receiver room. For me, the Brandon Ayuk stuff was a dumpster fire. It was a train wreck. It was, a weekly car crash. It was whatever you want to call it. It was horrible. The Brandon Ayuk situation, with him coming off the injury, we're expecting that he would be back this year. We were expecting that we would see some sort of return on the investment that this team made when they gave him that contract extension prior to the 2024 season, and it just never happened. And then he, posted a bunch of random stuff on social media. He drove past Levi Stadium, 100 miles an hour or whatever the case may be. The Brandon Ayuk situation is messy. Thankfully, it is nearing its end because they did revoke all of his future guarantees. And by all intents and purposes, Brandon Ayuk will be gone at some point this offseason, and he will be playing for another franchise in 2026. So at least we have a resolution to it. But the Brandon Ayuk situation, especially considering how thin this team was at wide receiver down the stretch, how badly they could have used a player with his skill set down the stretch. Look at the Seattle game a couple of days ago. How badly could they have used a guy like Ayuk to get separation, right? That whole situation was a dark cloud over this season. Even though he was not around, he impacted this team throughout the entire year. His presence or lack thereof impacted this team every single week. It was something that was not a good thing if you're a 49er fan throughout the course of this year. Next on my list of negatives from this 2025 season, you're likely going to lose both of your coordinators. Offensive coordinator Clay Kubiak has been getting some head coaching interviews, and of course we know defensive coordinator Robert Saleh is in the middle of a ton of coaching interviews right now. It sounds like you're probably going to end up losing both of those guys. And this is not a new place for the 49ers. They've been in this position before. It seems like they're replacing their defensive coordinator yearly now, but it just sucks because Robert Saleh is beloved in that locker room. He is beloved in that building. He is beloved by the fan base. His return was celebrated, and I'm hoping they can keep him long term. I know Kyle Shanahan feels the same way, but it sounds like, you're going to lose Robert Saleh, you're going to lose Clay Kubiak, and you're going to have to yet again make some hires at your coordinator spots. And inconsistency there is never a good thing. And so that's a negative for me for this 2025 year, is that going into 2026, you're probably looking at 2 brand new coordinators, and that's never fun. Next on my list of negatives, we mentioned the injuries at the very top. The injuries in this 2025 season, for me, really robbed this team of a truly special season. A special season that could have culminated with hosting the Super Bowl in your own house in like 2-3 weeks. They were this close, but all the injuries that they had throughout the course of the year, losing the key players that they did, it robbed this team of doing something absolutely incredible. I mean, it didn't fully allow this team and this coaching staff to capitalize on the soft schedule that they had. Imagine if this team would have had Nick Bosa and Mykel Williams for the whole year. Imagine if Ricky Pearsall would have been able to stay healthy through the whole year. Imagine if George Kittle didn't tear his Achilles in the wild card game and we had him in Seattle. Maybe it would have made a difference, right? This team got robbed of its, of seeing its full potential. And that hurts. That sucks, because it's not often you get schedules like this and things kind of lined up for this team in a lot of ways, but the injury bug really just put a damper on what could have been. And that's when I think about this 2025 season, and I mentioned it at the top of the show, is this season a success? When I think about this 2025 season, my main takeaway is what could have been, because the injuries made it that way. And it was not easy to watch, man, because you know what this team is capable of, and you know how good they looked early in the year with Bosa and Mykel on the D-line and Bryce Huff rotating in, and then you saw the emergence of Alfred Collins and CJ West, and you think, man, if we had all these guys healthy throughout the course of the year, like what would the pass rush look like? Like, we got robbed, guys. We got robbed of some greatness this year. We did. Next on my list, I have two more items on my negatives, and then I'll get to you some of your guys' comments in the chat. Next on my list of negatives from this 2025 season, it's confirmed. It is absolutely confirmed. There is no question. There is no doubt in my mind that Seattle Seahawks head coach Mike Macdonald has Kyle Shanahan's number. And I hate saying that. I want to grit my teeth. I want to throw something against the wall. But it's true. It's true. Mike Macdonald has Kyle Shanahan's number. We have enough evidence. We have enough of a sample size. Kyle Shanahan needs to adjust. He needs to adapt. He needs to evolve this offseason, and he needs to figure out how the hell to beat the Seattle Seahawks with Mike Macdonald running that defense. Pretty simple. I don't think I need to say much more than that. We've watched the Niners and the Seahawks twice in the last 3 weeks. You guys know it. Mike Macdonald has Kyle Shanahan's number. And if you don't do anything else this offseason, if you're the 49ers, you have to figure out how to beat Seattle, because they're not going anywhere. They're a young team with a good coaching staff. And that's priority number one for me this offseason, is how the hell does this team beat Seattle in 2026? How does Kyle Shanahan figure out Mike Macdonald? Last on my list of negatives for the 2025 season, watching our NFC West rivals in the Seattle Seahawks and the Los Angeles Rams move on to the NFC Championship game this coming weekend, and knowing no matter what we do, no matter what we say, no matter how we feel about it, One of those teams is going to be playing for a Super Bowl in your house in 2 weeks. We got to swallow that pill. It's a bitter pill to swallow, but you got to. I mean, what choice do we have? The Rams or the Seahawks will be playing in the Super Bowl for a Super Bowl in your house. It sucks. That is not a fun thing to think about. Anybody that knows me knows I'm going to say anybody but Seattle, whether it's the Patriots, whether it's the Broncos, and I'll say it right now, even if it's the Los Angeles Rams, I would rather have any of those teams win the Super Bowl over Seattle, in the coming weeks. With the Rams, do I want to see them win one? Absolutely not. Do I want to see them win it in our house? No. Do I want to hear the handful of Rams fans that come to Levi's every year talking about Rams house if they win a Super Bowl at Levi's? No. But at the end of the day, do Rams fans really exist to give anybody grief? Not really. I'm not the Rams winning the Super Bowl is not very high on my list of gripes right now. But I don't want to see the Seahawks win it. I just don't. But seeing both of those teams in the NFC Championship, while you're sitting at home, it sucks. Not fun. So those are my negatives, guys. I went through my positives and my negatives in terms of takeaways from this 2025 season. I see a ton of you guys here in the live chat. I appreciate everybody for tuning in, man. Let me try and catch up on a few comments. I appreciate all you guys, man. Let's see what we got here. Let me scroll through the comments. See what we got. Miguel says Rams fans do exist and they're super annoying. I mean, sure they exist, but there ain't that many of them, man. I watched the Rams parade. I watched their fans celebrate in downtown LA after they won the Super Bowl. There was 5 of them out there. They, every time the Niners play there, you would think that it's, a Niner home game. I don't sweat Rams fans. I don't. Let's see. Half Dead says Seattle literally has the worst fans in the NFL. They literally think they are the greatest franchise in NFL history, and they're delusional. That's part of the reason I hate them. They're all a bunch of, delusional, raging alcoholics. That's what they are. Because you go up to Seattle, it's just nothing but bars around that stadium. They're all a bunch of raging alcoholics who, whose minds are altered by all the booze that they drink pregame. Let's see. Make sure I didn't miss any comments. Yeah. 49er Mind. It says, JD, I dig the thumbnail. Appreciate you, man. Made that on Chat GPT. Can't lie. I used AI. Made it on Chat GPT. Speaking of Rams fans, the most common one you see on YouTube is this guy right here. Rams winning a Super Bowl in Santa Clara. Hey, as long as you beat Seattle, bro, I don't really care. I'm going to be real. It's not going to bother me. So you can say whatever you want in my comments and my chats. I don't care. Excuse me. If you beat Seattle, we're good. You're doing us a favor. Please beat Seattle. Obviously, yeah, do I want the Rams to win it? No. But I'm picking the lesser of two evils, guys. That's how I'm looking at it. I am picking the lesser of two evils. So those are my positives and my negatives. I do have some questions that have arisen or that are on my mind at the culmination of this 2025 year as we look out into the off season and towards next year. And after I get through these questions, I'm going to open up the phones, or at least I'm going to post the StreamYard link rather, and give you guys the chance to call in, with your gripes, with your complaints, with your positives, with your negatives, with your questions, with your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions, because that's what tonight is. It's a 49er therapy session, and I appreciate you guys listening to, to me talk for about the past 50 minutes or so, whatever it's been. I've been just trying to kind of, piece this thing together in my mind and just wanted to get my thoughts and my feelings out there. As far as the questions that I have for this team heading into 2026, is Brock Purdy the 49ers franchise quarterback? If you were listening a little bit ago when I was speaking about Brock Purdy dealing with injuries yet again in 2025 and missing half of the season, I kind of alluded to it. But a question that I have after this 2025 season is Brock Purdy actually the franchise quarterback? If you say it to Larry Krueger, if you say it to some other media members that I heard and other content creators, they will look at you like you are a moron. And he played great down the stretch. And he did some great things this year. He led this team on a game-winning drive in the NFC wildcard game in Philly. I mean, hell of a win, historic road win for this team in the playoffs. But it was another year of injuries with Brock. And I'm just wondering, is he actually the franchise quarterback? Because franchise quarterbacks stay healthy for more than one season. And outside of 2023, Brock has not been able to withstand a full season. So I have a question. That is something that is in my mind. Is Brock Purdy actually a franchise quarterback? Can he play a full season? I think it's a fair question. I do. I don't care. Like I said it earlier about Ricky Pearsall. I don't care how good you are if you're not on the field. Don't care. So that's a question I have about Brock. Next question on my list, and I'll try and get through these a little quicker so I can open up the StreamYard for you guys to call in. Have we seen the best of tight end George Kittle? He is 32 years old. He will be 33 next year. If he misses all of next season, he will be, returning in 2027 at age 33, going on 34. Have we seen the best of George Kittle? We know how Achilles injuries go. Guys are never quite the same coming off an Achilles. Now, the timelines for recovery and getting back out on the field, those are quicker than they've ever been. But in terms of explosiveness and the ability for that, to have that burst that they had prior to the injury, it leads me to believe that maybe we've seen the best of number 85. I mean, he is 32. He is not a young tight end by any means. And he's been a guy who's dealt with, injuries and a physical play style that's taken its toll throughout the course of his career. And so with an injury like that, an Achilles injury, that's a question. Have we seen the best of George Kittle? I'm not going to sit here and doubt him, because he has shown time and time again that he will play through damn near anything and put his body on the line no matter what for this team. And like I said earlier, he's my favorite player on the team, man. Like, I love George Kittle and what he means to this organization, what he represents. But it's a question nonetheless. Have we seen the best of George Kittle moving forward? Will Nick Bosa return to form and be the same player he was prior to yet another ACL tear? At age, I think he's age 28, going to be 28 next season. It's a fair question. What kind of Nick Bosa are we going to see? Now, do I expect Nick Bosa to be in shape and ready to go the start of the year? I do, absolutely. I mean, in terms of getting his body right and being out there on the field, come the start of the year, I don't put any of that past Nick Bosa. He will rehab like no other. He will be a freak of nature that way. He is a genetic anomaly, and I expect Nick Bosa to be a productive player, absolutely. But I think it's a fair question after 3 total ACL tears in his football career, including 2 in the same leg. Will he be able to return to form, or the same form that he had prior to this ACL tear? I have my doubts, but again, we've seen Nick Bosa, come back from this before. So I'm not going to close the door on Nick Bosa. I'm not one of the people saying that we should trade Nick Bosa, and there are people out there doing that. I'm not one of them, at least not right now. But I have my questions. I just have my concerns after this 2025 year and what we saw. A few more questions, guys, that I have that I want to share with you, and then I'll open up the StreamYard link. Is Ricky Pearsall a first-round bust? It's been 2 years, completely just derailed by injury. Now you have questions about whether or not he has the toughness to play in the NFL. With his play style, he's put his body on the line. He's the guy that'll take a hit. I mean, the dude was shot, for crying out loud. I don't want to sit here and question Ricky Pearsall's toughness. That's not what I'm trying to do. All I'm saying is that talk is out there. That conversation is out there. And I don't care how good you are. Like I said, if you can't get on the field, it doesn't matter how good you are. And so is Ricky Pearsall going to be able to stay healthy in 2026? Is he finally going to be able to put it all together and put together a season next year that will live up to the billing of being a first-round pick? Or are we going to be calling Ricky Pearsall a first-round bust? I think it's fair to give him one more year before we label him with anything, but the question's out there. And I'm sure we'll talk about it more throughout the offseason. It's a polarizing topic, especially for me, because like I said, I really enjoy watching the way Ricky plays the position. But it's a question nonetheless. Is Ricky Pearsall a first-round bust, or will he be called a first-round bust? It's out there. It's a question. It's a valid one. What happens to Christian McCaffrey in 2026 after notching 450 carries in 2025? I mean, we know what that number means. We know historically, running backs that have that many touches, that many carries, that much wear and tear, what happens to them the year after? We saw it with Christian McCaffrey after 2023. And he's not getting younger. He's 29, going on 30. What happens to Christian McCaffrey in 2026 after 450 touches? Pretty self-explanatory if you've been following the NFL and if you've been following Christian McCaffrey. Next question. Will they replace D. Winters? He got a lot of hype and a lot of support from this team after they moved on from Dre Greenlaw. But he's a guy who dealt with injuries this year, and he's a guy who got picked on a lot at times throughout the course of this season. Of course, he flashed some Dre Greenlaw-like potential and athleticism at times, but he's not Dre Greenlaw. And he got picked on a lot in that Seattle game. They ran at him a ton in that Seattle game. They threw at him a ton in that Seattle game. And I'm wondering, will they or should they replace D. Winters? Is Nick Martin, the third-round rookie from a year ago, is he going to be the heir apparent next to Fred Warner? We'll see. Something to pay attention to as we move forward. 2 more questions, and then I'll open it up to you guys. Is Renardo Green going to remain the number 2 corner on this team? He dealt with injuries himself. When he was on the field, he got picked on a ton. Of course, as the number 2 corner, that happens, especially when you're playing opposite Diamador Lenore, who in his own right is a very undervalued lockdown corner. Lenore is a stud. So whoever plays opposite of him is going to get the lion's share of the targets from an opposing offense. Absolutely. But is Renardo Green going to remain the cornerback 2 on this team is a question that I have, especially after what we saw on the sideline between Kyle Shanahan and Renardo Green in that divisional round playoff game up in Seattle. I mean, it's a playoff game. You want your horses out there. You want your starters out there in the biggest games and the biggest moments. And in a playoff game, when this team needed their guys the most, Kyle Shanahan tore into Renardo Green big time on the sideline. He put in Darrell Luter Jr. They had him go in, and he immediately was picked on in the back of the end zone by Jackson Smith-Njigba and Sam Darnold, and they scored a touchdown. And that's what happens whenever a starting corner gets benched. The offensive coordinator on the other side goes, okay, that's where we're throwing, the guy that just came into the game. And that's what they did. They went right at Darrell Luter Jr., and he gave up a touchdown. So I have my concerns about the long-term viability of Renardo Green being the number 2 corner opposite Diamador Lenore. I wouldn't be shocked if we saw them make an upgrade there. Just remember I said it. And then my last question that I have coming out of this 2025 season, how will they address the wide receiver position? I mean, Ricky Pearsall, you can't depend on him. Brandon Ayuk's going to be out the door. Jordan Watkins, for whatever reason, couldn't get on the field. Jacob Cowing can't stay healthy. Demarcus Robinson, solid player, but is he like a pillar? No. Kendrick Bourne, will he be back on this team? Who knows? Juwan Jennings, heading into free agency. Will they re-sign him? Should they re-sign him at the number he's probably going to demand or command? Those are all questions. How will they address the wide receiver position? And will they make this team more explosive at receiver? Because they have to be. They're slow. They can't separate. Big question for me. One of the top questions I have going into this offseason. What are they going to do at receiver? Because they need to overhaul a lot in that wide receiver room. So there you go, guys. I just shared with you for the last hour my positives, my negatives, and my questions coming out of the 2025 season. I hope you guys have enjoyed that. I know I've been talking for a while and I can be long-winded and whatnot, but it's a therapy session, not only for you, but for me too. I want to just talk it through and get my thoughts out because I've been sitting and marinating on all this stuff the last few days. So I appreciate you guys listening to me, yammer. Let's see if we have any other comments here in the chat before I post the StreamYard link. Miguel says, I don't think Green is the answer. Half Dead says, we're slow. Let's see what else we got. 49er Media says Renardo Green ain't going nowhere. Okay. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but we'll see. Miguel says, I don't think Winters is the answer. See, there's a lot of questions surrounding this team coming out of 2025. So I'm glad I'm not the only one who feels the way I do about certain things. Let me go ahead and finally post the StreamYard link, and you guys can call in and give your thoughts, and we can talk about this. Okay. StreamYard link is posted down below in the live chat. Let me pin it on my phone. I wish StreamYard would just let you pin it from StreamYard, but they don't for whatever stupid reason. All right. And the StreamYard link is now pinned, so you guys should be able to see it and call in. And if you're calling in, don't worry about being on camera, guys. You're not going to be brought up on cam. I'll just be hearing your voice. So if you're a first-time caller, don't worry about that. You won't be brought up on camera. If you are on camera, it doesn't matter. You're not going to be visible. Just going to be hearing your guys' voices. So we have a caller backstage. We go out to Niner Gang Podcast. First up tonight here on Keeping the Faith. How you doing, man?
A little frustrated after this season, man. It kind of sucks. And for me, man, I look at it and I'll give you the positives. The positives were we actually made it to the playoffs with just a ragtag bunch of dudes, whoever we could find, pulling every defensive lineman we can think of off their couch to come and play. All these things that happened. The positives were the rookies, Upton Stout, Alfred Collins, CJ West. Hopefully Nick Martin is fully healthy next year because I think he's going to be a great addition to our linebacker room once they give him some actual time because he was a sure tackler all preseason last year. You know what I'm saying? The positive, Mac Jones coming out of nowhere. basically slapping everybody in the face saying, I should have been the pick. When they went and wasted the pick on Trey Lance and then gave up on him with the seconds and were like, all right, cool.
So do you think Mac Jones is actually a starting quarterback, or do you think that he is better served in the role that he's in as a very, very good backup?
I'll tell you this. This is what I think of Mac Jones. I earned a lot of he earned a lot of respect from me this year with what he did for the team, the way he handles himself, what I'm saying, all of that. Like I have a very big amount of respect for Mac Jones. And I can tell you right now, if you put these three together, you might have a winning shot. And I'm going to give you a coordinator, a head coach, and a quarterback. If you put Mac Jones, Robert Saleh, Mike McDaniels together, you might have yourself a winner. Mac Jones already understands the system that's being run. Robert Saleh is a very good defensive coordinator. Mike McDaniel is a very good offensive coordinator. And you put those three together, you can take them to a team that's been failing and possibly turn it around. That's just me.
So you're on the fire Shanahan train? Is that what you're saying?
I am not a Kyle Shanahan fan by any stretch of the imagination. I haven't been for a while. Here's my thing. Shanahan gets a lot of credit that he doesn't deserve. Do you know that Kyle Shanahan, since he's been here, has only had 3 years of actual consistency? 3 years. Out of his 9 years coaching this team, he's only had 3 years of consistency. What I see from media pundits and even content creators is the showering of love and praise for what he did this season. What he did this season was astronomical. And yes, it is to be revered as his best season as our head coach because he did it with nobody and he was able to make things work. But what I'm saying is we still ain't got no Lombardi. And here are your counterparts outdoing you. Sean McVay got a Lombardi before you did. Nick Sirianni got a Lombardi before you did. Sean McVay now has a chance to go after another Lombardi. Mike McDonald sunned you 2 times in the last 3 weeks, and he's got a chance to go get a Lombardi. You've been to the big dance twice. You failed. Now, I understand it's the players and people will do that and all that stuff, and that's all well and good. But at the end of the day, when you win, who gets the praise? The head coach and the quarterback. When you lose, who gets the brunt of it? The head coach and the quarterback. So for me, my thing is, and this is just me, I'm not giving Kyle Shanahan another extension. I'm moving the hell on. If he don't give me a Super Bowl this year and I'm Jed York, I'm done with the Shanahan experiment. 10 years is more than enough time to be able to win a damn Super Bowl. I am sorry. And you've made 2 appearances and ain't won either one of them. And I think this actually, because they say the fish rots from the head down. So I think this starts with the Yorks. Because when Eddie D was in here, we was 5-0, baby. The minute the Yorks took over, now we 0-3. And I don't see Jed nowhere. I don't hear nothing from Jed. He ain't saying nothing. He ain't thinking about it. I'll just let Kyle and John run the show and I'll sit back and watch the money come in. And to me, that says you're cool because you know what you do. You give the fans enough faith and enough hope to keep asses in seats and money in your pocket. You don't really care about winning Super Bowls. And the reason that I state that is because of one comment that Jed York made. He initially started with the comment of, we're not here to hang NFC championship banners. And then basically took all that back by saying, well, losing the Super Bowl isn't that bad. It isn't? I thought as an owner, your idea was to go after Super Bowls every year. You want to be in contention. And I think what's happened is 49er fans have become complacent and they are happy with just being contenders. And they're saying, well, you got to contend to, get in there and Kyle keeps us in contention. Not the case. The man had 3 years of consistency. I believe that was 2021 to 2024. After that, every other year, is either you're in the playoffs or you're not in the playoffs. If you don't believe me, people, please go look up Kyle Shanahan's coaching career as a head coach of the 49ers. And you can tell me if I'm lying or not, because I know I'm not. I do my research. Ricky Pearsall, I'm done. Get out of here. I'm tired. Brandon Ayuk, didn't like the pick when we did it. Didn't think we should have jumped up to go get him. Guaranteed smoke up our you-know-what based on everybody saying that Green Bay was going to go get him when we all know Green Bay don't draft no receiver in the first round. So my biggest thing is it was great to have Salah back, but we only got him for this year. To be honest with you, if it's me and Salah does walk out the door for a head coaching job, promote Gus Bradley. He started the damn defense anyway. Let him do it. I know some people want saying to go and get Jim Schwartz, another person who owns Kyle Shanahan. Or you could go get Steve Spagnuolo, who seems to own Kyle Shanahan too, because he beat him twice in the Super Bowl. Because I don't think of Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes because Kyle Shanahan is not scheming to go against Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. He's going against the DC of the opposing team. We have no wide receivers going into the season, bro. None.
Yeah.
JJ gonna be gone. Somebody gonna break that man off something real proper, and I'm talking about money, baby. He is going out there and getting paid.
And then there's also the question of whether or not they should pay Jawan Jennings $20 million a year when he's a number 3 wide receiver, fringe number 2. But no, yeah, I let you talk because you made a lot of valid points and you have a lot of very strong opinions supported by some very good information, good facts. I appreciate the passion and the insight, and that was a very strong call. I got to ask, like, the Kyle Shanahan thing. You're not a Kyle guy. So would you be in the camp of firing Kyle and retaining John Lynch? Because that's kind of, to me, going into 2026, like, there's no more injury excuse. They did wonders this year with the injuries that they had. It was a miraculous season by the coaching staff. If they go into 2026 and suffer a ton more injuries next year, which they probably will because they typically have every single year of the Kyle Shanahan regime, if they go into next year and they have a down year because of the injuries, I don't think Kyle Shanahan should get the injury excuse again. Not after this year. I don't think he'll have that. But let's just hypothetically say that they had injuries next year. Would you move on from Kyle, or would you move on from Lynch, or would you make a full sweep?
It's gonna have to be a full sweep because they go hand in hand. That's the unfortunate thing. The thing is that if you look at our first round picks, just in the history of the Shanahan and Lynch era, we haven't necessarily hit on those dudes a lot. I can tell you right now, BA, it took him a while to come along. I think he's only had maybe 1,000-yard season at best.
Back to back.
Back to back. Okay, so he had 2.
Yep.
Nick Bosa, we've had him for the time that he's been here, and he hit, but he also has had 2 full years missed. Mike McGlinchey is now in Denver. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And the rest of our first round picks were trash and or bust or headed that way, i.e. Ricky Pearsall. The number one thing that I can say is that it hurts because we neglect our offensive line consistently. And you let Chris Forrester and Kyle Shanahan get up there, they'll tell you this is the greatest offensive line known to man. And that Jake Brennan was the greatest center on God's green earth. Now, mind you, yes, outwardly they cannot down their players. You will never see that. That just would not make sense. But inwardly, they've got to be looking at each other going, hey, man, we need to do something better with this. Because your only real all-pro on that line is Trent Williams. And even he's slowing down. The other thing I did want to touch on as well, CMC, over 400 touches this year. He led the team in rushing and receiving. He will be 30, people. When you are 30 and you are a running back, that is when the wheels start to slow down and fall off. Now, mind you, I love what Christian does with his body and he takes care of himself and all that stuff. That's great. But the other thing as well is it never makes sense to me how you start the season, Kyle Shanahan, and say, we've got to protect Christian from himself, and then get a man over 400 damn touches. How are you protecting Christian from himself with giving him over 400 touches between rushing and receiving? You're not protecting him from himself. You have Isaac Garindo, you drafted Jordan James, and then you trade for Brian Robinson, bumping those dudes
for Brian
down.
Robinson. You trade for Brian Robinson for no reason.
And for what? Because he was literally just a body. You never utilized him. When Shanahan first got here, you know what I'm talking about. There was a 2-back system. We had Matt Breida. We had Tevin Coleman. You know what I'm saying? Like, we had a 2-back system. And then we had Raheem Mostert. Yeah. So what did Kyle do at that moment? He said, if you got the hot hand, you're the guy. And Mostert and Coleman understood that. They didn't complain. They didn't moan. It was just, hey, TC is hot today. Hey, he ain't out there moving. So they understood it. But my thing is, there are so many different things that you could think of that Kyle Shanahan could do that he just does not. And it confuses me. If you felt that Jake Tonjes was that good, why were there no 2 tight end sets? If you traded for Brian Robinson, why didn't you truthfully spell Christian McCaffrey? Why did you allow him to dictate when he came out of the game? Because that is always the excuse from Kyle Shanahan. Well, Christian doesn't want to come out. I'm sorry, is he the coach or are you the coach? Last time I checked, you were in charge. So if you're in charge, you can turn around and go tell Bobby T, sit him down, put Brian in, spell him. If I'm going to run the ball 35 times, I'm giving Christian 20. I'm giving Brian 15. You know why? That way Christian doesn't get overworked and Brian gets some work.
Yeah. You know what, Dion, man, you are absolutely on fire. I appreciate the passion. Hard to refute a lot of the stuff that you're saying. You have some very valid points. I am going to let you go. I don't mean to cut you off.
No. Understood. Everybody got to get in.
Whatnot, and people wanting to come on. Don't be a stranger, man. I appreciate the passion. I appreciate the knowledge that you're spewing, because you're spitting a lot of facts that I think a lot of Niner fans need to hear. And it's going to be an interesting offseason.
Yeah, get at me anytime you want to do something, man. You know, I got my own channel, so you ever want to come on, just holler at me, bro. I like what you do. I appreciate what you do. Continue to keep up the great work, man. Don't let nobody stop you. God has blessed you with an opportunity to do what you're doing. My hat's off to you, man, and continue to be great, brother.
Appreciate you, man. Same to you. Have a good night, man. Thank you for calling. Shout out Dion, man. Wow. I let him talk because I didn't disagree with a lot of what he said. That was a strong call. He had several good points. I mean, from Ricky Pearsall to Kyle Shanahan to Christian McCaffrey, there's a lot that he said that I can't disagree with. And that was an enlightening call. I'll put it that way. That was a very strong call. I did see other people backstage that dropped off while I was letting Dion talk. So that's my fault. That's not on Dion. It's a therapy session, guys. I'm getting paid by the hour. So I let Dion do his thing. If you want to call in and give your thoughts, you want to let out your emotions, you want to, give your opinions, your takes on this season, positive, negative, what questions do you have based on how the season ended and looking ahead? Now is your chance to call in. The StreamYard link is pinned down below. I want to hear from as many people as possible. I know I let him run a little long, so that's on me, but I liked what he had to say. I'm not going to lie. I agreed with a ton of what he had to say. You guys heard me talk for the past hour about my positives and negatives and questions. And so, like I said, I'm doing this stream tonight. It's a therapy session for the faithful. And so I let him go a little long, but I didn't disagree with a lot of what he said. We got another caller backstage, and I'll bring him on right now. Let's go out to Miguel. Miguel, thank you for tuning in, man. You're on with JD. What's on your mind tonight, my friend?
Hey, bro, I'm the one that said that I watched you since I was a kid.
Yep, gotcha. How you doing?
Dude, it's good. Hey, I'm gonna be honest with you. I am not doing okay. after getting destroyed by the Seahawks, the team that I grew up hating, after finding out that the Rams beat the Bears, my worst nightmare came true. And both of them, one of them is going to play the Super Bowl in our stadium. That's the worst nightmare. I promise you, I could not sleep yesterday just thinking about that. That hurt my soul.
It does, and it hurts me because, like, I'm forced to root for the Rams. I'm
Look,
sorry. That's the reality of it. For me,
JD,
it's anybody but Seattle.
look,
And if
look,
that means I have to root for the Rams, then damn it, I'm rooting for
look,
the Rams.
I get your frustration with the Hawks, but at the same time, for me, it's a lose-lose situation because I know Rams don't have that much fans, but I'm sorry to say this, they're just as toxic as Seahawk fans. Maybe at least it's the fans that I'm seeing, but they're as toxic. I promise you that. They're as bad.
Yeah, they can be. It's just there's not as many of them. So maybe
I get it.
maybe
Look,
that
I
makes
get
it a
it, but
little
still,
easier.
it's like same hatred. You know what I mean? But obviously, I'm a root for an AFC team. But as much as I hate to say it, it's gonna be tough for them to beat that Seattle defense. As much as I hate to say it.
But you saw that Thursday night game in the middle of December up in Seattle. I mean, it took basically an act of God for the Seahawks to win that game. It took a kick return from Rashid Shaheed, or a punt return rather, and it took one of the flukiest 2-point conversions of all time for Seattle to put themselves in the position to win that game. So I'm not counting the Rams out. I'm not.
I'll be honest. I'm just hoping the AFC takes it. I'm really hoping the AFC takes it.
Yeah, that's the probably the best path if you're a 49er fan. Just let the AFC win it.
I know, but at least even if the Rams win it, the only thing we can do is redeem ourselves next year and win the Super Bowl at their stadium. That's the only way we could redeem ourselves, or win a Super Bowl in general.
Yeah. I mean, as long as you win one, I don't care where we win it. We could win it in Los Angeles at SoFi. We could win it in Dallas. We could win it
country. I don't care. As long as
we can win it in in Alaska. I don't care. Just win one. Just win one.
We just win it. There we go. That's it. But going on to the other things, it just sucks, bro. But I wanted to talk about some things. Going to the Kyle Shanahan thing. Look, I'm not saying to fire Kyle Shanahan or anything, but I just got one thing to say. We're going into year 9. He still has not have won a Super Bowl for us. He has not won a Super Bowl for us. And look, I give him credit for what he did this year. Taking this depleted Niners team to the divisional round, I give him a lot of credit. But at the same time, I'm at the point where winning a playoff game doesn't mean anything to me. Not that it doesn't make me happy, but it doesn't satisfy me. I'm at that point because I'm at the point where I'm like, I won't be satisfied till that Lombardi trophy is held up. Because I've been through so much pain as a Niner fan, I'm never satisfied until that Lombardi trophy is held up after all these heartbreaking playoff losses going through since I was a kid.
So how old are you, Miguel? If you don't mind,
I'm 23, turning 24. I first started watching you in middle school, and my first videos of you was seeing when we hired Jim Tomsula. I don't even want to think about that.
Okay.
I remember
see you. So you said you're 23 going on 24?
Yes.
Okay. So you have been through the Harbaugh era, then the Jim Tomsula, Chip Kelly era, and then the Shanahan era.
Yes.
Fortunately for you, you've had very few down seasons. You've dealt with, I mean, I'm not saying you haven't suffered or you haven't felt pain, but you went through a great period in the Harbaugh era, and you went going through a great period with the Shanahan era right now in terms of winning.
Yes.
But at the same time, like you've dealt with all the heartbreak. You dealt with the Kyle Williams game. You dealt with losing to the Ravens in the Super Bowl.
Yes.
You dealt with Richard Sherman talking shit about Michael Crabtree.
That was the most painful one. I swear to you. I remember like it was yesterday. I was a 6th grader. I was crying so hard. I remember that like if it was yesterday.
Yeah.
And
so
history, and look,
you've been through
again. Sadly, it happened again with the Seahawks, but in a blowout way.
Yeah, it's brutal, man. It's brutal. So what would you say? I'll ask you this. What is your number one positive takeaway from this season? What is your number one negative takeaway from this season? And what is your biggest question that you have about the team going into this offseason?
My number one positive is these rookies, they look good. I'm telling you, Alfred Collins, you got Upton Stout. Upton Stout's going to be a star for us. I'm telling you right now. You got these young defensive players. I'm proud like that we made the division round with a bunch of second strings, with a bunch of backups, rookies. I'm proud of that. And then that's the one good thing. And you said the bad thing, a negative thing.
Yeah, what's your
negative
most
thing,
negative takeaway from this
as
year?
the other guy said earlier, I'm concerned about Ricky Pearsall. I'm concerned about D. Winters. I'm concerned about Ronaldo Green. I will say this: I had huge hopes for them, but from what it's looking like right now, I'm not saying they're 100% bust right now. I have concerns over them. I really do.
And then what's your biggest question for the
My
team this
biggest question
offseason?
is, for the offseason, I was gonna say this. My biggest concern is Kyle Shanahan ever gonna win the big game for us? Because as much as I hate to say it, it feels like it's never gonna happen. Like it feels like something like a 1 in a million moment happens to us. Like what were the odds of Dre Greenlaw getting hurt, jumping up and down, and him tearing his Achilles? What were the odds of that happening? What were the odds of Jaquasi Tartt dropping that interception? What were the odds of that 10-point lead we lost in the first Super Bowl? What were the odds of us having all these injuries this year, and it came to us against our division rival, and us getting blown out? I'm not saying that's the main reason we lost, but just imagine if we were fully healthy that game. That game would have been close. That's all I'm gonna say.
I'm with you, man. I feel your pain. Believe me, I've been through it with you. I appreciate
You're
the
strong.
call. Thank you for always, tuning
Yeah.
in and everything. I have
Yeah.
other callers backstage, so
Yeah,
I'm gonna
sorry.
move on. But
That
thank you,
answered your
Miguel.
question,
Don't be a
right?
stranger, man.
Yeah. That answered your question, right? About what was it? The third question you asked me about?
Oh, just your positives, your negatives, and what's your biggest question for the season? You absolutely you did a
Yeah.
good job, man.
Yeah, my biggest question. Yeah, that's my biggest question about Kyle Shanahan. If Kyle Shanahan's ever going to win the big game for us, I
And
know he'll take us to the playoffs, but just if
that's
he'll ever
probably the
win the big
biggest
game.
question. I think
I
we've kind
want
of
him
reached
to win the
Andy
big
Reid,
game.
Philadelphia Eagles territory with Kyle Shanahan. Are we
Yeah.
ever going to actually win it with Kyle, or should they just move on and figure it out?
Because it makes me like upset that Nick Sirianni won in a short amount of time with the Eagles. Sean McVay, you got all these. Who else? Bruce Arians with the Buccaneers. Like it just makes me like how.
Yep, I'm with you, Miguel. Well, hey, I got other callers
Hey,
backstage,
yeah, I
man. So
appreciate.
thank you for
appreciate you having
calling.
me on, bro.
Yep,
Keep up the good
absolutely.
work.
Call
God
back
bless
next
you.
time.
Yeah, keep up the good work. God bless you, bro.
All right, have a good
Go
one.
Niners. Go Niners.
Go Niners. Shout out Miguel. I love hearing from passionate Niner fans, man. And I know I let people talk. You guys listen to me talk a lot, so I want to let other people get on here and give their thoughts. I really strive to be like the most interactive 49ers channel here on YouTube. A lot of people want to talk at you. I like to talk with you because at the end of the day, we're all fanatics. We're all diehards. We all eat, sleep, and breathe 49er football. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. So I like to be interactive and inclusive with everybody. So with that said, let's go on to our next caller, my guy, Bashar. Thank you for holding on backstage, man. I appreciate it. Bashar, how you doing tonight, buddy?
What up, JD? Obviously things could be better, but you know what? I'm alive. There's people in this world that have it worse in regards to things going on outside of football, so I'm not going to pout and cry and moan or anything like that. But I obviously have my concerns about this team. That there were definitely some positives this year, and I do have a confession to make. I've been watching you since I was a little kid as well, too. So. Just kidding.
But that's funny, Bashar. That's a good one. That's good.
I had to quote for them. Man, go ahead.
It feels like everyone's been watching me since they were a little kid. I feel like I'm a 75-year-old man at this point. I've been on YouTube so long. It's crazy. I don't know.
How old was I when I started watching you? Jeez, I think I was 30. So if you consider that little, then fine.
Hey, you're older than me, so but I'm not too far behind you. I'm not too far behind you.
But good times meeting you back in the day. That we went to training camp and we were kicking a candlestick. Those are good times, man.
Absolutely.
So we were both on YouTube.
So coming off of this season, off the Seattle loss, how are you feeling? Do you feel that the 2025 season was a success? Do you look at it positively? Do you look at it negatively? Like, how are you when you think about what we just witnessed? How do you feel about this season?
Yeah, in regards to the hand that was dealt to us, I mean, honestly, when Fred Warner went down, somewhere on Facebook Messenger, I messaged a few people. We're cooked. We're done this year. It's mock draft season. Whatever. This sucks. We lost Bosa, we lost Fred Warner, and then lo and behold, we lost Michael after that. I believe the Michael injury was after the Warner injury, if I'm not mistaken. But I wasn't expecting us to just sit there and watch this team week after week and say, "Oh wow, look at that play! That was a sick touchdown! Hey, we pulled it off! We won!" Yeah. Oh wow, we finally got a good kicker! All this fun shit. That, it was actually entertaining. So when you actually pulled out 12 wins, I never thought that would happen. But of course, aside from beating Philly, which was great, by the way, after we beat Philly, I messaged you and I was excited to call in. I was riding high, and then I don't know, 2 hours later, I just fucking passed out. I never called in, so I felt bad. Although I was really hyped up to call in that day too. But yeah, we do awesome against Philly, and then we lay an egg in Seattle. Sucks because especially for you, because I know you're Mr. Hawk hater, and when that opening kickoff happened, I was just like, this. Well, hey, we're only down by 7, right? I mean, you and I think you were at the playoff game when Kaepernick beat Aaron Rodgers and he went off on those crazy runs. He threw a pick 6 right off the bat in that game, right? And a lot of people were down, but we bounced back right away. So I thought, okay, no, we're on the road, but maybe we can bounce back. It's still early. But Talon just fumbles and all this BS happens one after the other, and they had the momentum. And like you said, Mike McDonald, I cannot stand that guy. I was so pissed when he freaking called that timeout when it seemed like we had converted on the damn first down, the 4th and 1. Yeah, that was so frustrating. I can go on and on about how annoying and shitty that game was. Obviously we don't have the greatest offensive line in the league, but we did manage to put up some crazy points in certain games, and that it's kind of like smoke and mirrors with the offensive line and the way Forrester coaches them up. But it's like, Forrester, can you imagine what kind of points we could put up on this damn team if we actually drafted guys at the offensive line who were highly touted? And I played offensive lineman in high school, so I'm very passionate about that position. But at the same time, with this team, I just feel like, well, why bother to get excited about offensive linemen that we may draft in the future? And case in point, we are getting offensive line. In my opinion, we're getting manhandled the whole time against Seattle. I think you mentioned that you thought they did a better job during the playoff game rather than the regular season game.
I think in the playoff game they did a much better job than they did in Week 18. There was several instances where Brock Purdy had 3, 4, 5 seconds to throw, and he's scanning and he's reading, and just there's nobody open. I wasn't as mad at the offensive line in this game as I was in Week 18.
Yeah, and I didn't get to watch all 22s or, go back and try to watch the DVR on the TV that I recorded. But so I'll take your word for it. The word on the street, and from other people too, not just you. Other people were saying that certain guys weren't open. And it's frustrating when you're watching because you're like, damn, yeah, it's time to throw it. Like when they ran that circus fucking play, we're just like, oh, well, what's going to happen here? And next thing you know, it's just a mediocre 1-yard pass because the announcer, they didn't really replay it too much, but the announcer was saying that nobody was open downfield where he was trying to throw. So, case in point, this wide receiver room, regardless of what happens, is going to look completely different. Whether we sign JJ or not, there's going to be some other guys in the mix. I'm like you. I love what Pearsall does when he is on the field, but I hate to knock the guy because he's went through a lot, man, and I like him. But it is what it is. 10 games missed is not good. And when he was out there for the Seahawks game, he was probably playing at 50%. I'm just guessing. I'm throwing a wild guess out there. But again,
he deserves some credit for gutting that one out and trying to help his team. If people are going to criticize him for missing games that he potentially could have played in, if there's rumblings that there's people in the building questioning kind of his toughness, I want to give him credit as well for the fact that he did go out there and try to help this team in the divisional round. I want to make sure that's clear as well.
Yeah, I got that. And I don't know what goes on behind the scenes in terms of, I always thought it's like the medical staff and Kyle who make the decision on whether or not people play. I mean, I didn't know that Pearsall is at liberty to say, hey, I'm not going to play. I'm sitting this one out. But I'm not sure where the rumblings are coming from too. I know you mentioned it, and maybe I heard one other person mention it. So I just didn't really look into that. It could be true, perhaps, but at the end of the day, this regardless of how talented that guy is and whatever, it's just a no-brainer to add more depth to the wide receiver room. I mean, why didn't we try to develop Watkins this year? I have, with all due respect to Larry Krueger, Had him on my show back when I was doing my show. Met the guy, but I don't know if he's cheerleading for players and they're not good, or these players are good that he's hyping up in camp, and Kyle's just like slow poking with their development. I don't know which one it is, but my thing is these other teams draft these skill players and they're freaking getting reps in their rookie seasons. But yeah, we tend to redshirt guys. Another guy, Jordan James. I was texting my boys all year long. When are we going to see Jordan James? They're like, oh, he sucks. He's not out there because he sucks. But dude, he was nice. He was really, really nice at Oregon. I don't know if the guy sucks. I just want to see what the fuck he can do. He finally got out there when it obviously didn't matter, but he didn't look bad to me.
Yeah. And as far as you mentioned Larry and his take on Jordan Watkins and stuff. I think a lot of what it is, Larry's a former scout, so he's going to have his own lens that he looks at things through, his own biases, traits that he values and whatnot. I think anybody who watches football and studies football and whatnot has their own opinions and their own biases and whatnot. I don't know if he's like cheerleading for guys, but I think a lot of people, especially scouts and people that evaluate football, they want to have their opinions or their research validated. And so I think a guy like Larry, he feels a certain type of way about Watkins, thinks Watkins can be a good player because of XYZ traits that he has or what he's seen out on the practice field. And I think that's a lot of what that is. And then, of course, like Kyle Shanahan, I don't know why he didn't play guys like Jordan Watkins or Jordan James throughout the year. I don't know why Jordan James's first touches of the entire season come in a playoff game. There's a lot of questionable things. For as much good as we saw this year, there was a lot of questionable things as well. Like you mentioned there. Bashar, are you there?
My bad. I minimized my phone for a second. It turned off and I had to turn it back on. Yeah, what I was going to say was I think Kyle did a tremendous job this year, despite the way I'm knocking him for the lack of developing certain players. He's done that for quite some time. It's nothing new. But in my opinion, I know some people are a bit extreme in saying, hey, let's get rid of Kyle and let's do something else because we haven't won it yet. But in my opinion, my honest opinion, and I hate to say this because from his Stanford days, I watched John Lynch when he did play at Stanford. He played under Bill Walsh at Stanford.
Oh, no.
What?
Oh, Bashar, no. Fuck! Breaking news. Adam Schefter. Oh, here we go.
Saleh?
According to Adam Schefter on Twitter, Robert Saleh will now be joining his third AFC South team of his career. His first NFL job was with the Texans from 2005 to 2010, and he also spent time with the Jaguars from 2014 to 2016 as their linebackers coach. Now he is the Tennessee Titans head coach.
Wow, and we all had a good. Yeah, good.
The 49ers lose Robert Saleh. Bashar, I'm gonna let you go, man. I appreciate the call, my friend. Thank you for calling in. Don't be a stranger. Robert Saleh, guys. Robert Saleh is officially the new Tennessee Titans head coach, according to Adam Schefter. Wow. He put out a tweet about 13 minutes ago while we've been talking here on air, and I missed it. My bad. But according to Adam Schefter, ESPN sources, Titans are working to finalize a deal to hire 49ers defensive coordinator Robert Saleh as their head coach. Saleh spent Monday in Tennessee with the Titans, and the two sides impressed each other enough to move forward together. They bumped up their interview with him in person, and it's one and done for Robert Saleh in the Bay. Wow. I'm not mad at Robert Saleh. He deserves another chance to be a head coach. He goes into a situation where they already have their quarterback in the rookie Cam Ward. Good for Robert Saleh. That's brutal news to get, though, in the middle of a show. Oh, that hurts. I thought maybe the Titans job was going to go to Matt Nagy, who interviewed for the job as well, especially after the news came down that the Kansas City Chiefs were hiring Eric Bieniemy to be their new offensive coordinator, thus meaning that Matt Nagy was going to not return to Kansas City. So I kind of thought that maybe Matt Nagy was going to end up as the Titans head coach, and maybe, just maybe, there was a path for Robert Saleh to return to the Bay, but according to Adam Schefter, it's official. Robert Saleh is leaving the Bay Area once again for a head coaching gig, and this time it's with the Tennessee Titans. That sucks. Okay, so I went through my positives and my negatives tonight on this stream and my questions for the offseason, but now we have another big question. Who will the 49ers hire as defensive coordinator? Will they promote from within with a guy like assistant coach Gus Bradley, who is the godfather of the Seattle cover 3 that the Niners love to run? Will they maybe promote assistant linebackers coach KJ Wright? Will he be the next man up at defensive coordinator? Or will they go outside the building? There's been names rumored like Raheem Morris, former Atlanta Falcons head coach, who Kyle Shanahan has tons of history with. Guys like Jim Schwartz are out there. What will the Niners do at defensive coordinator now that Robert Saleh is gone? Wow. Absolutely brutal. Absolutely brutal. That sucks. That's a bummer. Chardal, I see you backstage. Let me go to you real quick. That news just kind of bummed me out though. But Chardal, you are live on the show, man. How are you doing tonight, my friend?
Hi JD. I was at a 49ers and Seahawks watch party at Dave & Buster's with my friend. We both went together. We drove there. That game was the most disgusting, brutal, grim ass whoopings I've ever seen in my fucking life as a 49er fan. That was so heartbreaking. We lost 41-6. We lost by 35. I mean, I was not expecting it to be a blowout, to lose by that. I wasn't expecting it to be a blowout, to lose those many points. But that was heartbreaking, man. I was crying. Like I couldn't stand Seattle when they were having that huge lead. It didn't make me feel good. I bet all the Niner fans in Seattle or watching it from their homes, I bet they couldn't stand to see Seattle end up winning that game. I mean, that was really that was tough to watch. I mean,
it was brutal.
That was not a good sight to see.
It was rough, man. It was rough. And now we get the news. Now we get the news that Robert Saleh is gone too. So just another punch to the gut, man. What a rough couple of days if you're a Niner fan.
So that's double trouble, right? Niners lose to the Seahawks. Robert Saleh is leaving the Bay Area. I mean, what else can you say right there? I mean, there's nothing you really can say at this point. It's really it's so grim at this point. I mean, I was expecting. I even predicted that the Niners would play the Rams in the NFC Championship game, but now they're out. So it's either Seahawks are going to play the Rams or the Bears in the NFC Championship game to determine who's going to move on to the Super Bowl. But I was just like, what were your initial thoughts of the loss, JD? Like, were you as heartbroken as I am? Because we're all Niner fans. This is a Niner-based channel. We all feel the pain.
I mean, I went live. I went live here on the channel immediately after the game and gave my thoughts. I was not happy. I was upset. And anyone who watches my channel knows that the Seattle Seahawks are not my favorite team in the world. So I was absolutely devastated. It's never easy to lose a playoff game, especially to a division rival, especially to one of the most hated teams in your franchise history. It's brutal, man. But Chardal, I appreciate the call, my friend. I don't mean to cut you off there. Please do not be a stranger. Call back next time when I have a little bit more time. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to wrap up this show because I want to put out a video on my thoughts on the news that we got from Adam Schefter that the San Francisco 49ers are losing defensive coordinator Robert Saleh to the Tennessee Titans. He is a head coach in the NFL yet again, and that's big news. And so I want to wrap this up here tonight. I appreciate everyone who's called in. I appreciate all the chatters. I appreciate everyone who supports this channel. If you've enjoyed the show and you want to help support, the Cash App info is down below. My cash tag is JD49TD. We will be getting monetized soon, so you guys will be able to donate that way. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, guys. And I got to put something out on this Robert Saleh news because if things just, if things couldn't get worse, they just did, like brutal, 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 brutal. But I appreciate everyone for tuning in. I will be back very soon. I'm going to try and come up with some sort of streaming schedule this off season. Looking forward to talking through all of this with you guys over the coming weeks and months as we, get into the off season and whatnot. So hang in there, faithful. It will get better, but we just got to ride this out right now. But, nothing else to do but ride out the storm, guys. So I will be back very soon. I appreciate all of you. And as always, let's go Niners.